Hey, good evening, everybody. My name's Chris Felton. I'm one of the founding members of WealthWave here in Greenwood Village, Colorado. Great to have you guys. And for the last 21 years, I've been very fortunate to lead a group of 200 plus licensed agents as we've opened offices in 17 states, and we've literally helped thousands of people learn how money works. And what we're going to talk about today in the United States is we have a major problem. It's a crisis. It's a wealth crisis. And it's the fact that people don't know how money works. They're mainly totally financially illiterate, and it causes a lot of problems. And so until now, there really hasn't been a good solution to that problem, whether it's through our school systems, our industry, even our own homes with our own parents. And so we at WealthWave have discovered an incredible solution. And so what we're going to talk about today is the problem, our solution to that, and then potentially your role in helping us advance our mission of stamping out and eradicating financial literacy in the United States. And so you might be on this webinar for different reasons. You might be a current client, and first and foremost, thank you. We're super grateful for you, because without you, we don't have a business. And so welcome. We appreciate you. You might be here like I was 21 years ago, totally frustrated with your career. Wanted to have more time, wanted to have more control, wanted to make a bigger impact, wanted to do better financially, and you're here really looking at it from a career opportunity. You might be a potential client and you want to just level up your financial literacy and just understand how we operate. You might be here like a lot of people. The pandemic kind of caught you flat-footed. You love your career, but what you're realizing is you're probably not making enough money. You're not saving enough money. You know you need a side business, something part-time, and you're looking at us from a multiple stream of income. You might be here from what we call you're just a center of influence. And whoever invited you is getting a business going. It's important for them that you know what they do, that you endorse what they do, and they're hoping that you sing from the rooftops in our praises, and you make introductions to everybody you know so they can grow their business. So for whatever reason you're here, welcome. I'm excited to share this information with you. My background, I grew up in Loveland, Colorado. It's a small town 60 miles north of Denver, Colorado. I grew up to amazing parents, but guess what? They didn't learn how money works. And so they did the best they could, but what did they do? They argued over money. They fought over money. They stressed over money. They eventually divorced over money. 60% of divorces are tied back to financial stress. The 5 leading killers in the United States today are all stress-related illnesses. And, my mom passed away at 64. Colon cancer is what they said was the ultimate cause. But I believe, it was financial stress, because from the time she was 5 until she was 64, she just always was stressed and worried about money and how am I going to make it. My dad passed away about 2.5 years ago, made it all the way to 88, but he died broke and had just about every stress-induced illness that you can think of. And so I took my money cues from them. I went to college at Colorado State University because my parents said, go to school, get good grades, get a good job with good benefits, don't rock the boat, don't take risk, and when you're 65, everything's going to turn out okay. We all probably got that message, right? But studied accounting. Moved down to Denver in 1993. Went to work for a very large corporation called Arthur Andersen, a large accounting firm, and basically for 7 years I just worked 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I was busting it and just couldn't think. And really my turning point that led me here was a 1 week period of time when we had a very difficult client. We had a stressful deadline. We were way behind. I was supervising a group of 8 people, and it was looking like the deadline fell the day after Easter Sunday. And it was really looking like we were going to have to work on Easter Sunday. In our household, to my mom, Easter Sunday was the deal. It was the holiday. And when I disclosed to her that it was not looking good, she basically told me that if I work Easter Sunday, there's going to be a smoking crater where I once stood, right? And so I'm like, oh my God, I got to work. I got to figure it out. So basically I didn't sleep for a week. I worked 120 hours in a 6-day period. We got the job done, and I got home early on a Saturday evening, and my brother and I lived together, and he was waiting up for me. And he was leaving me voicemails all week. He didn't know what happened to me. And I don't know if you've ever had a family intervention, but that's basically what happened to me. I was tired. I was exhausted. And he started asking just irritating questions like, what are you doing? And is this what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life? I got super defensive. And the gift that my brother gave me is he really got me to begin to think. And we get so busy in life, and most of our thoughts, 91% of our thoughts today are the same as they were yesterday. And the real secret of life is if our thoughts don't change, then our life doesn't really change. If we want to change our life, we have to change the way we think. And so when things like that happen and give us a wake-up call, and one of the gifts of the pandemic has been people really rethinking their lives and sitting down. And so I did the thing I was avoiding doing, and it was thinking. And I sat down, I started reading a book called Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill. Highly recommend you pick it up. And I started reading about, basically it was his life's work of studying 500 of the most successful people of all time, from Andrew Carnegie to Edison to Ford to Alexander Graham Bell to Woolworth to Wrigley to Rockefeller to 8 presidents, 5 prime ministers. And basically he studied them and gleaned from these 500 people the 14 principles that they all followed. And basically it was a philosophy that got results. And so whether you want to have a successful marriage, a business, health, you name it, if you apply these 14 principles, your life works. And if you don't, it doesn't. And I started studying it, and it was new information to me. And what blew me away was I thought all these people, I thought they chased wealth. I thought they were kind of, greedy entrepreneurs, but no, I was wrong. They all were on a mission. They were on a mission to solve a big problem. And as a result of solving a big problem and changing people's lives, they got wealthy in the process. The other thing that blew me away was they all had one thing in common, and they had these things called dreams. And I'm like, dreams? Wow, I remember those. I had those at one time. What happened to them? I had them as a kid, but I got busy and I kept putting it off. And it really got me to think. And I just started thinking about, God, man, what do I really want my life to look like? What's this ideal life that I'm looking at? And I got excited about it, and I started writing it down. And as I got excited about it, I started looking at my career. So my dreams were over here, my career was here, and I just was like, man, being an employee is never going to get me this. I got to do something different. And I came to the quick conclusion that I had to become a business owner if I want to have control of my life and have that ideal life. And so I call it the moment of truth. And my moment of truth was I either needed to kind of give up my goals and dreams and my ideal life and kind of shrink it to fit inside my current reality, or I had to go change the vehicle and not give up on this. And so I went on a journey. I studied entrepreneurship. I looked at small businesses. Nothing really satisfied what I was looking for. It just looked like a lot of risk and a lot of capital, no mentoring. And then I wanted to get into financial services because here I was, an accountant, and I didn't know how money worked. And I interviewed with some of the largest firms on the planet, and they were like, we'd love to work with you. Let's go see all your $1 million friends, which that was zero, coming from Loveland, Colorado. And when they wouldn't even meet with my own mom who needed help and had $10,000 to invest, I was just pretty turned off by the industry. And then long and the short of it, me and my partners that we got this thing going 21 years ago, we sat through an overview like this. I was pretty shut down. I was pretty skeptical. And my future business partner, Eric Jensen, started telling a story. And there's 3 things that got me excited back in the day that still get me excited 21 years later. I'm actually more excited than ever. And it was the opportunity to really help people on a grand scale and teach them how money works because they're so financially illiterate. The mission of it, the purpose of it still gets me excited today. The second thing was really, working in one of the largest industries on the planet on a part-time basis, like test driving this thing to see if it was a fit. And then the last thing was just the dream was sold to me, and been very fortunate to live it. But it was the opportunity of waking up on January 1st. And if you're your recurring revenue from your business is greater than your bills. You have some financial independence and some financial freedom. And so I jumped in, I took small steps, just kind of put one foot in front of the other, and was part-time for a year and then went full-time in February 2000. And here we are. And so we are looking to advance this mission of stamping out, eradicating financial literacy. And we literally need to grow our agency by about 1,000 more people, and you'll see the problem. But what does control look like for you? And this is a great question. And unfortunately for most people, they don't have control. And whoever controls your paycheck, pretty much your boss, controls your lifestyle, your time, where you live, the schools that your kids go to. And I have this great quote from one of my mentors. He says, how risky is it to have 100% of your revenue generating efforts in the hands of someone else and no control in your hands? And so that was a big thing for me. And so just a great question to ask yourself, what does control look like for you? And as you're looking at different opportunities out there, we literally operate in the largest industry on the planet, man. There's a lot of people in retail. There's a lot of people in real estate, and everyone thinks those are big industries. But if you combine those, they're about half of what our industry size is. And what I love about ours is the majority of our industry is focused on uber high net worth, large institutions. Our niche is this other 96% of society, right, that no one wants to talk to. It's insane. And so I'm not smart enough to create some tech application, and I'm not that smart. And so common sense tells me I just got to align myself with literally the biggest niche on the planet, the other 96%. When that happens, a big market like that actually makes you look a lot better than you really are, right? So if you're going to pick something, this is one to pick. And literally every generation's in play right now. I mean, you got parents of boomers, they got their challenges. Baby boomers, totally behind. But they don't want to retire. They still want to contribute, right? Our model lines up well with that. We got my group, the Xers, they're behind financially, and they're really disenfranchised with their careers, and they're really looking at something entrepreneurial. They don't know where to turn. And then millennials have watched what's happened to boomers and what's happened to, their grandparents. And guess what? They don't really trust the industry. So where do they go for answers? And so literally hundreds of millions of people need our help. And what you're going to learn about our industry is the needs going up like this, and the amount of people who can serve the need is dropping like a rock. The average age of someone in our industry is 58. 20 years ago, it was 38. It's pretty much the same people, and it's been stuck, right? That's why we call ourselves the Uber to financial services, right? When Uber showed up, it shocked that old dated industry that was operating on an old paradigm, and that's what we're doing right here. And that's why there's such great opportunity. And we literally are attacking the number one economic crisis in the world. And when our book came out, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, in the fall, this was a quote from that book. And I read that and I was like, is that really the number one economic crisis on the planet? And then guess what happened? The pandemic hit. And, people stocking up, 12 months worth of toilet paper and eagerly awaiting a $1,200 stimulus check. And I was just, oh my God, yes, that proved it to me. The average small business owner had about 2 weeks of reserves. And so I fully believe it now that the number one economic crisis on the planet is financial literacy, and money affects every single person on this planet. And so once again, it just makes sense to align with that big of an issue. So our parent company, Aegon, did a retirement study, and it's a big one, right? And once again, the pandemic has proven it out very well. 70% of people in the world are totally financially illiterate. And the challenge is the United States is literally the number one most prosperous country on the planet, but we rank 7th in financial literacy. We're behind India and Spain, right? So it's a major problem, and no one really wants to solve it. Schools don't know how to solve it. I'm obviously in the state of Colorado, and before the pandemic hit, they voted down the budget in our school systems to teach financial literacy. And so schools don't want to teach it. The industry doesn't want to take on anybody but the top 2 to 4%. And the other problem with a lot of education out there is there's education, and one of the most misquoted quotes of all time is knowledge is power. But no, you know what? Knowledge is not power unless it's properly applied. So what we have to do is we have to bring systems and implementation strategies to apply that so people can actually work in their lives. Because what we find is people get overwhelmed and left to their own devices. They either do nothing, they freeze, or they end up making a mistake. And so they need coaching. And that's what we are. We're financial educators first and foremost. We're financial coaches first and foremost. And that's the role that we play. So our mission, once again, to stamp out financial literacy everywhere, so families can dream again. And what strikes me about that is I know what financial stress looks like. I've lived, I lived it a big chunk of my life, and it's horrible. And I watched what happened to my parents, and guess what? Financial stress was generationally a problem. And this was the first company that actually changed that for my whole family tree. And when you're worried about money, guess what? There is no opportunity to dream. And so we got to give people that level of peace. And one of the dreams that was sold to me early on from a mentor was, I had a mentor look me in the eye and she said, Chris, you'll never know how good you can be until money's behind you. You'll never know how good you can be until money's behind you, meaning you can never really become the best version of yourself or live the best life if you're worried about money. And so peace of mind and giving people that peace is a major passion and purpose of mine in our group. And so I love this. We're WealthWave. We are the How Money Works company. And what we have created is we've created an education system. And the reason we created our own is we went out there and we were really frustrated at what was out there. I mean, books that were like, this big. Tony Robbins put out a money book like, 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, every time I'd open it up, small print. I was literally snoozing. It was very difficult to get through, and it was intimidating. And so what happened is Tom Matthews, Steve Siebold are just two titans in the industry. Tom's been around for 38 years. He's the founder of WealthWave. Steve Siebold is, you can Google Steve, has written amazing books on mental toughness and how rich people think. He's done the longest running study of the self-made millionaire, billionaire crowd, and has just written books about how they think and what they do. And then they came together and they created a book, and it was about having, it's approachable and, it's thin. You could read it in an hour and a half, and you're going to learn more about money while reading that book than you probably have in your entire life. It's got, characters. And so what's happened is the media's caught wind of it. And before we got shut down, these guys were on, Fox stations. And if you Google CNBC Rule of 72, CNBC Rule of 72, you'll read their fact check on the book. And once things started opening up, right, they're going to be on the Ellen Show, Today Show. Anyway, so we're getting incredible media coverage of it. And the reason that is because people love it, because it's actually moving people's financial literacy forward. And if you want a book, please text whoever invited you, and we'll put one in the mail to you free of charge. We just ask that you actually read it, right? And so from that, we've created a master class, right, which is, once again, about a two and a half hour in-depth dive of the book. And what it has is, it's honest. It meets people right where they are. It's simple. I like simple things. I love, people that can explain complex concepts and bring them down to everybody. And so just text whoever invites you and ask them when the next master class is. We also have some recordings on that. And then, once again, my favorite part of what we do is it's good to read it, but you need someone to guide you through the steps to actually implement it and make it work in your life versus just reading and not doing anything with it. And so the actual strategies are huge. And once again, it's the #1 economic crisis on the planet. And so in something like that, there's probably a pretty significant business opportunity. And you guys can read 44% of Americans just, they don't have enough money to handle a basic emergency. The student debt market is growing. It's up to 1.8 trillion. And, we have some solutions for that. You take out 9,000 on a credit card, and most people don't understand that, you're going to end up paying 4 times that over the course of your life in interest. And, 33% of Americans have zero retirement savings. And so, so can you imagine flying a plane with one wing? Okay. And that's unfortunately what people are doing. Right. And, if you have, my clients, it's kind of a weird question, right? That slide says you need at least 70% of your income, right? When I'm talking to my clients and I'm like, hey, do you want to take a pay cut in retirement? And they're like, it's kind of a weird question, right? No, I don't want to take a pay cut. Well, guess what? You haven't saved enough. Social Security is not going to be enough. And so it's back on you and your personal savings, your personal game plan. And we got to fill in that other wing, right? We got to put 2 wings on that plane. And I think our business is really the other wing. And if you Google the term, gig economy, Google the term gig economy, right? Airbnb is a gig, Uber is a gig. And so we are shifting to that. We're a professional services version of that gig. And so that's one of the ways that we get people to play catch up, right? Because they absolutely have to. They got to make more money. They got to save more money. And their JOB is not getting it done. And so no generation saving enough. Boomers, if you got $152,000 saved, you're pulling 5% of that a year, 6%, $6,000 to $9,000 a year. It's just not going to get it done. Xers are behind. Millennials, like I said, they don't trust it. So, we're reaching out, we're working with all those. But once again, our biggest problem is we just don't have an army big enough to go handle literally the hundreds of millions of people that we can help. And, and this is what we're running into. I mean, this is a weekly occurrence. I had 2 or 3 of these this week, right? Where it's like, you got to save this amount and this is actually where you are. And so what do? And we have the strategies. We have the things that we can put on the table, because if you don't have that income, right, 63% of Americans are more afraid of outliving their money over dying. Is that a crazy statistic? And they don't want to move in with their children, right? It's just, anyway, such a huge problem. People are living longer, and it used to be a blessing, but it might even be more of a curse. And so this is what we're able to do, right? And if you're wondering how do you do this, schedule a time with whoever invited you, right? So that we can make sure that we can create reliable income. So you can take that worry and create peace of mind for you. We're experts at that. And so financial concept here, Colorado State didn't teach this to me. My old career as an accountant didn't teach this to me, but this is a good one. Teach your kids. Rule of 72, and it's pretty cool because you take 72 divided by the interest rate that you hope to achieve, and that's how long it takes your money to double, right? But the problem is if you have your money in a bank account, 1% is generous, okay? The average rate in a bank right now is 0.09%, 0.09%. Using the rule of 72, it would take you 800 years for your money to double, right? And guess what? There's $10 trillion sitting in accounts in the United States just like that. Why? People don't know. Nobody told them. And guess what? It's not their fault because no one's told them. Schools didn't teach them. Parents didn't know any different. Industry could care less. In fact, they take advantage of you. If you know less, they do better. So if we can just get a better return, right, up to 9%, look what happens. So really cool tool, right? And make sure you teach that to your kids and apply it to your life. And then I don't know how many of you guys like paying taxes, but I don't. And it's just, if you were starting a farm Would you rather pay taxes on the seed that went in the ground or the harvest on the, on what it grew to? And most people say, man, I'd rather pay the taxes on the small amount versus the big amount. But however, the way people have their money invested, they are deferring their taxes into the future, and they don't know any better because it's what everybody else does. And guess what? How many trillions of dollars we pumped into the economy? Tax rates, our belief, is going to go up. So we got to teach people that, you know what? We got to show you some tax never strategies. How does that sound, right? But most people have their money in tax now, tax later. So if you're not sure how all that's working out for you, please schedule a time with whoever invited you and make sure that you get an analysis done. So you're taking advantage of some pretty cool things that are out there. And also, you know, understanding one of our top investment strategies, actually the #1 way that me and my wife invest. And the analogy I give is if you were going to go camping, you don't run into your kitchen and grab some scissors and then grab a corkscrew and grab a fork and grab a knife and put them in your pocket and you run out all weighed down with 10 pounds of stuff. What do? You grab one tool that gets all the jobs done, and it's called a Swiss Army knife. And so our Swiss Army knife of financial products, absolutely phenomenal, zero market risk with market-like returns. Last year when the market was cranking, our clients were making money, and not only were they making money, they were locking in gains, which was super important, right? So when the pandemic was hitting, they were covered, they were protected. You add long-term care to it, which is literally one of the biggest holes in everyone's financial picture. It's financially devastating, and most people don't have a plan there. So they can end up saving their whole lives and getting wiped out in 2 to 3 years in care. And then you add those different tax strategies to it. And so if you can add all those, and with one monthly investment, you get so many jobs done. It's just unbelievable. So we got a 4-minute video that'll explain that to you. If you're interested, once again, please follow up with whoever invited you and say, hey, I want the Swiss Army knife video. I want to get more educated on it. So this is what we do, complimentary for everybody, usually a 2-step process. #1, get a financial education with the book, the master classes, sitting down. And then you got to either go back to your advisor if you got one, or we help you with that. And we guide you through, you know, proper protection and life insurance and long-term care insurance and creating reserves so that when things like the pandemic happen, you're covered. Strategies to get debt-free. There's a lot of debt out there. Finding money with cash flow that's leaking out of your life, managing your expenses. Once again, I believe raising your income is one of the biggest parts of our mission. You know, building wealth and getting money growing for you with less risk and avoiding taxes, protecting your wealth. Anyway, we could do a whole master class just on that slide alone. Follow up with whoever invited you, and we'll get into details of you with you. And so, so on the business side, this is what can happen for you. You come into business, you get the requisite licenses, and you know, you literally help 5 families a month, and that's the potential. And we got people doing that on a part-time basis. It's not, you know, overnight. It's not, you know, it's not get rich quick, so to speak. You got to come in, you got to learn, you got to get trained, you got to be coachable. But it's unbelievable what you can do. It happened to me too. My part-time income started bumping up and surpassing my full-time income, and I knew that's when I had to go full-time. But 60% of my group's part-time, 40% is full-time. And if you want to do what I've done, which is scale it up, right? Build your own agency, do leadership development, teach people what you're doing, replicate, duplicate, and then you can create that kind of income. And if you want to double it, there's no limit. It's pretty spectacular what you can do. And so follow up with whoever invited you to do a deeper dive into that. And these are just, you know, we show these not to brag, but just to say, you know what, I always like to see results. And if I'm going to look at a business opportunity, I want to see big results. And so you guys can see 250,000 people in the last 6 months have gotten financial literacy training. We paid a lot of money over, you know, just a lot of our agents as a result of solving a big problem. Over 10,000 licensed professionals. We want to take that to, you know, 100,000 as quick as possible. So things are happening, but we're not even putting a dent into it. Credible business platform. I love that because I don't have to create all this stuff. I just need to plug in, right? Plug in and it's done. And literally, if you were to create all this, it would take you 10 years to even put yourself in a position to even do business. And so that's what's cool about platforms. You plug in and you rock and roll. And you got mentoring and training, and it's really powerful. And then digital, one of my favorite words. And when the pandemic hit, we didn't shrink, we ran at it, and we went virtual. And what's happened to us is all the borders have been removed. 5 months ago, if somebody wasn't within 15 square miles of my office here in Greenwood Village, Colorado, I'm like, yeah, probably don't have a chance. Now, no more borders. We got new people coming on in Nebraska. We got new people coming on in Maui, right? We got our training. I mean, I think we've got about 25 states every week. It's unbelievable what you can get done digitally. And I think what this will do is it's moved us 5 to 7 years into the future. And the rapid speed of what I've done in 21 years, I think somebody could come over here and do in 3 to 4 years, mainly because of this. And so this is what we're doing. This is the biggest part of the mission, I believe, moving people from small E to big E, which is small, E is employee, lack of time, lack of control, no financial upside to really becoming an entrepreneur. When I started this 21 years ago, the thought of being an entrepreneur was a lot of risk, working 100 hours a week. You had to be crazy. And, being an employee was the safe thing to do. But I think what the pandemic has taught us is employee is the most unsafe thing you can do. My entrepreneurial friends, obviously, we had to work a little bit harder. We're working a little bit harder than we ever have. We're happy to do it, but we've created that safety and that security that is almost impossible as being an employee. And so in my opinion, it's not even optional. You have to look at, even if it's on a part-time basis, to becoming an entrepreneur. And so we're all about that, right? And we want to teach you to get your life back and get in control of your time again. And, start building something for you and being able to say no to a bunch of this stuff, right? It's cool to have time control and ability to do what you want. And so as I'm wrapping up, different options, make sure you follow up with whoever invited you here in the next 1 to 2 days. I do it right after this. Just text whoever invited you. If you want to go through those 7 money milestones and level up your financial literacy, become a client, please do that. Part-time obviously is the way almost everybody starts. And, you get trained, you don't have to risk your financial future, keep your day job, carve out 3 to 5 to 10 hours a week to kind of get this thing moving, and then make the decision to jump full time. And just to wrap up here, it's been great to be with you guys, but I kind of want to end, the way I started. And once again, I call it that moment of truth. And for me, I saw this overview, and I asked myself, does my career really have the horsepower to deliver my goals, dreams, and aspirations? You got to ask yourself, does it? In mine, it was no. I asked myself, what intrigues me the most about this? So I ask you that. What intrigues you the most? If you were to do it, why would you do it? And I had a gigantic list of why. And then, can you think of a good reason why you wouldn't consider it? I didn't think of it because I didn't know if it would work unless I gave it a shot, right? You're not going to know unless you give it a shot. But really, I just sat there and I said, you know what? I got this thing, my ideal life that I want to have. And so I either need to change what I'm doing, right, in order to have that, or I need to shrink what I'm doing to fit inside my current reality. And about that time, I read an article that USA Today put out. They interviewed 10,000 Americans over the age of 80. And they asked them, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done differently? And I was astounded because almost all of them said, I would have taken more risk. I would have started that business. I would have gotten out of my comfort zone. I just would not have played it so safe. And they had one thing that I never wanted to have, and it was regrets. And so I'm grateful I took it on. I challenged myself. I jumped in. I took small steps. And it's literally the business that has the horsepower to deliver. It's delivered on the goals, dreams, and aspirations for me and my family. It can you as well. Follow up with whoever invited you. And if it's a fit on both sides, hopefully you'll join this amazing mission that we have of stamping out and eradicating financial literacy in the United States. Have a wonderful evening.